Marshall Keeble is a legendary figure in the churches of Christ. This is a small denomination of Christians in the United States of America that had an incredible history. And Marshall Keeble is perhaps its most famous African American preacher. And my life actually was impacted by Marshall Keeble when I was around 10 or 11 years old. He came to Valdosta, Georgia, the town where I was born, and had a major evangelistic revival. And my family went, and they were my parents greatly impacted by him. I was impacted by him at a very young age, and decided that I wanted to be a preacher as well. So I started very early on practicing. I would go to church. I would memorize all the passages, all the Bible verses, and I would recite them. I was very much taken to this idea that somehow one of the ways that the African American would get out of a situation of oppression, very, very early I had this awareness, would be that we had to have leaders who were fearless, people who would be able to speak truth to power, so to speak. And so the preaching possibility was one where you had a leader who was not necessarily tied to the white establishment, but worked for black people. And not only worked for black people, but was paid by black people, and therefore was not dependent upon the white establishment for jobs. So it was all very, very attractive at a very early age, the independence that I saw in a person like Marshall Keeble. Marshall Keeble started over 100 and maybe 100 different churches throughout the South. He was a very, very dynamic person. And soon after he left Valdosta, my family and the little church that I attended decided that I should go to the Nashville Christian Institute. And I went to Nashville, Tennessee, and I studied at that school, and Keeble was the president. There were maybe about 100 students that come from all over the United States and the Caribbean. And we studied there, and one of the things that impressed me most about Keeble was his ability to raise money to fund this private school. It was one of the few black boarding schools in America. I think there were, at that time, no more than 10. And the Nashville Christian Institute, it was called, was very, very well known and famous for creating really outstanding students and outstanding leaders in the world. People like Fred Gray, who became the attorney for Martin Luther King Jr. Most people know Martin Luther King Jr. They don't know very much about Fred Gray, but Fred Gray was the civil rights lawyer that always got him out of jail. And he was the one who was most important in terms of legal advice to King. Gray, who was certainly my senior, but was also a person who was influenced by Keeble, was, we say, integral to the civil rights struggle. And so NCI had its share of people like Floyd Rose, one of the most eloquent people who's lived in the United States of America. All these people came out and fought for human rights and justice, social justice. James Webb, there's some very, very key names, Wendell Gunn. All these people came out of the NCI. So I'm, just mentioning this because some people ask me sometimes, well, what happened to you? Well, what happened to me was I got to be 18 or 19 years of age, and I was basically kicked out of the church. But I always go back to remember Marshall Keeble had a tremendous impact on me in terms of discipline and in terms of the ability to present ideas and to argue ideas. Even though, as I always tell people, the experience, though it was useful, was not certainly final for me, because I was also always on a pattern of growth as a seeker of knowledge, and I did not believe in sort of a limited view of reality or a limited view of human nature or human beings. And I thought that human beings who were good and ethical and moral could be good and ethical and moral without the church. And so Keeble's impact on me, for the record, so that people who read the story about Marshall Keeble's influence on me will know the truth, is that his record of discipline, his record of being able to be dependable, all of these were qualities that were taught at the Nashville Christian Institute, and Marshall Keeble was perhaps one of the key proponents of this in my life.